Welcome back to Sports by GSMC Podcast Network. I'm your host, Jeremy Lapidus. If you were just tuning in, we've just broken down Game 1 of the Western Conference side of the NBA playoffs. Again, the home team won every single game on Game 1, so there were no teams on upset alert yet. In this segment, we're going to break down the Eastern Conference games, go through the big surprises, the big storylines coming out of the Eastern Conference after Game 1 weekend. But before we do, remember, if you would like to be an even bigger part of the show than you already are, all you need to do is go to gsmcpodcast.net. Leave a tip or donation with the website that is on the screen right now. Leave a message with that tip or donation. It'll pop up on the bottom of the screen there for you, me, and everybody else watching around the world to see. You can control what we talk about here on this show. All you need to do is leave a tip or donation at gsmcpodcast.net. Appreciate anything that you do give. Once again, that link is gsmcpodcast.net. Appreciate you guys for listening. We'll be right, But let's go right back to the NBA, breaking down the Eastern Conference side of things. The NBA Eastern Conference Game 1, and we'll go ahead and start right back on Saturday, the first game of the playoffs between the Cavs and the Magic. This 4-5 matchup where the Cavs basically chose their opponent on that last game of the season. Something that, if they lose, could backfire spectacularly on them. This game was really decided by the shooting. You know, when you have a team in Orlando that shoots 32% from the field, 21% from three, 63% from the free throw line, as opposed to a team in the Cavs who are shooting 44% from the field, only 26% from three, but they did shoot 81% from the line. It's going to be a difference, and that's really the 14-point swings you see there. You know, you have just a team that was more efficient, better at making shots. What my big takeaway from this game is Jarrett Allen down low has been able to establish himself. That was the biggest takeaway from their last postseason when they were unable to get past the Knicks. They could not have established that physical force down low, but Allen has been able to do that, at least in Game 1. 16 points, 18 rebounds. Evan Mobley had 3 blocks. You have these guys that are establishing an identity on the inside, and that is really what I said, at least in my opinion, is going to decide this series. Whichever team can control the boards, whichever team can control it down low, is going to win this series. And for this game, you look at the rebounding numbers. It was, it was 40-54, 14 rebound difference, 14-point game. Now it's not always going to look as pretty as that, but you can see the kind of correlation between rebounding, controlling down low, and winning this series. I think both of these teams are pretty evenly matched. You have some star-studded people at the top, and both of these teams are relatively deep. Both of these teams go 4-5 deep. Bench points are going to be huge in this series. Magic had 17 bench points last night, or on Saturday, and the Cavs had 14, so relatively similar there, but Donovan Mitchell puts up 30. Donovan Mitchell, by far the highest scorer. The next highest scorer, Paolo Banchero, who had a great game in his playoff debut, putting up nearly a triple-double, 24, 7, and 5. Great game for him. He did have 9 turnovers, though, which you have to cut down on the turnovers if you're going to win the game. That is brutal. They did win the turnover margin by 5, but when you have your star, the guy who has the ball in his hand all the time, turning the ball over 9 times, it's not a great look, and it's going to be tough to win. So if Paolo Banchero can clean up those turnovers, I think the Magic aren't going to shoot 30% from the field every night. They're not going to be that inefficient. So their guys are going to start shooting. Gary Harris isn't going to go 0 for 5 from 3 every single night. So the Cavs can't count on this performance and say this is how it's going to be all series long. It's going to be a tough battle, but I do believe that whoever controls the inside is going to control it. a great fun game. Another kind of close one. It wasn't really, excuse me, that close, but 14 points compared to some of the blowouts we saw on Sunday isn't that bad. And the next game, Knicks 76ers, is probably my biggest surprise of the first round. You have a Knicks team without Julius Randle going up against Joel Embiid having 76ers team. A 76ers team that, with Joel Embiid, has been killing it. And you take a look at the Knicks team and you say, oh, they won this game by 7. Jalen Brunson must have had an incredible game. And he didn't really have that great of a game. You know, you have Jalen Brunson. He did put up 22 points. He had 5 turnovers, 7 rebounds, 7 assists, but he was incredibly inefficient. 8 for 26 from the field, 1 of 6 from 3. I mean, most games, if you go 8 for 26 against a team with Joel Embiid, it's not going to be good. It's not going to help you out there. But they just outplayed them. You know, none of these the Knicks didn't really play that great as compared to the 76ers, at least when you look at it on paper. But, you know, having Josh Hart out there going incredibly efficient, 22 points, 5 for 12. He had some huge minutes, a double-double from him. And Joel Embiid not seemingly being his healthiest, he did put up 29, but he wasn't dominant on the glass like he was supposed to be. Josh Hart out-rebounded him. And I know that's not a one-for-one comparison, but Joel Embiid was supposed to be the difference maker. He was supposed to be the guy that's just dominating, being unable to be stopped. But, you know, he shoots 8 for 22 from the field. He's been kind of locked down. Now, that's not the only reason that they lost this game. You have you shoot 30% from 3. You need to shoot a little bit better. Especially when the Knicks shoot 45% from 3. They hit 16 3-pointers, just a barrage of 3-pointers. You go all the way down the roster. McBride off the bench has 5 3-pointers and 21 points. That's not something you can count on every single night, but huge minutes for him off the bench, coming in and spelling some of these stars of the Knicks. And if they can play like this every night, they're going to give the Sixers a really tough series. I still think the Sixers will be able to pull this out, and I don't want to overreact too much to this, but the Knicks looked really solid this go-around. Heading on to Sunday's slate, the first game, and the game that I was really excited for, didn't quite go the same way that I thought it would, but the Bucks taking on the Pacers. The Pacers just shot themselves out of the arena. You know, you have, and the Bucks, you know, they did everything right, at least in the first half, shooting-wise. We talk about a performance where Damian Lillard has 35 points in the first half, doesn't score a single point for the rest of the game. Damian Lillard was on a heater to have. Look at those, he was insane. You know, he ends the game with the same 35 points. Like I said, he doesn't score a single point in the second half. But, you know, you have Bobby Portis and Chris Middleton with double-doubles. Damian Lillard hits 6 threes, all of them in the first half. And it's kind of demoralizing for a Pacers team that just was not shooting the ball well. I mean, they live and die by the 3. They took 38 of them, and they only made 8. So they shot 21% from the field, from 3, 39% from the field. This is not the kind of performance you want. Tyrese Halliburton only has 9 points in 38 minutes. He is doing other stuff to help out, 8 assists, 7 rebounds. Pascal Siakam has a double-double, but they just could not make a 3 to save their lives, and that really was their downfall. They had to push in the second half. They dominated that third quarter, made a little bit of a comeback, and then they were just out of gas. They weren't able to come all the way back and take game 1 after Damian Lillard if Damian Lillard disappears in a half like that again, especially without Giannis, it's not going to go the same way. This Pacers team is good. They just had a bad shooting night. And I expect that to switch coming up in their next game. I really do still believe in this Pacers team. They play again tomorrow on NBA TV, but it's this should be a fun series. Like I said, it's going to be a high-paced, high-scoring series. The first game didn't quite go that way. And then the final Eastern Conference team, the final game of the first round of the playoffs, the Celtics took on the Heat, and they just dominated the entire way. They started off the game on like a 10-0 run, and they never looked back. I don't think the Heat led even once. Jason Tatum had a triple-double, 23, 10, and 10. You know, the Heat made a push in that fourth quarter, but at that point, the Celtics were up by like 40 points, so it didn't really matter. Without Jimmy Butler, it's a tough task to take down a team like the Celtics. And I know that they are the Celtic killers. The Heat are sometimes seem to be, at least they have been for the last couple seasons. But without your leader in Jimmy Butler, it's going to look like this. And I don't think the Heat stand much of a chance. There wasn't a lot of huge takeaways from that game. The Celtics are really good. They're really good. And Jason Tatum is really good. He had himself a great game. And they just dominated the Heat. There wasn't really a lot of positive takeaways for the Heat. So we'll have to see if they can bounce back. The Heat have that Heat culture. So I'm never going to count them out completely because even without Jimmy Butler, they have guys like Bam Adebayo. They have Jaime Jaquez Jr., who had a pretty solid game in his own right. And Tyler Hero, who struggled a little bit, but can step up in those playoff moments and the shooting moments. This Heat team, I don't think will put out that bad of a performance again, but I think the Celtics team is just better. It's not that close, especially without Jimmy Butler. And there's a question of if he'll be able to come back for the second round if they make it there, but they have to make it there first. They can't just assume they're there, and especially in a team as formidable as the Celtics is your opponent, it's not going to be easy. But yeah, in our third segment coming up, we are going to transition out of the NBA into the NFL. There was some big trade news coming out of the NFL today. We will break that down, what that means for the draft coming up in just a couple days on Thursday for these quarterback-needy teams and a quarterback trade that happened earlier today. So stick around for that. We'll be right back on Sports by GSMC Podcast Network.